Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Kyuubi gives Naruto a doujutsu naruhina. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Dragolight and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, quote from a fanfic I read. Author. Dark Fate. Before you begin to read my fic, I just wanted to say that if you try to bring religious beliefs, the laws of physics, or even if you are tied to canon facts and timelines, then you will have a very limited story selection on the site. When you open up a fan fiction or book in general, you need to leave your concepts at the door and let yourself be carried away by the views of the writer. Seeing into the imagination and personal world of another is the reason for stories to exist. That is how you truly enjoy a story. Let yourself be absorbed by the words and beliefs of another. Thank you all, and I hope you will remember my words while reading this story and any other. I myself am a lover of fanfics that respect the main plotline and will try to change only certain events and outcomes, but stick to the main story. One of the things I personally can't stand is that people tend to exaggerate things than they are in the original plotline. I mean, if you make a fanfic of it, then I am almost certain that you love the original. It took me nearly 30 fanfics read until I got the message above, and countless, not really, but I just lost count more until I actually found these words. So let's move on to what I plan to make in this story. Important. This is my first fanfic and English is not my native language, so please be merciful. Spoiler alert. Naruto will be very strong but not godlike. He won't be able to kill a Sannin straight out of the academy but could give Kakashi a good workout. Follow the kiss rule. Keep it simple, stupid not simple and stupid, edit. I failed TT. Naruto gets a special adaptation of Ranpu, light chakra. Abilities. Control of all forms of electromagnetic radiation, from radio waves, X-rays, microwaves to gamma radiation, purification capabilities, but nearly no healing power, can interfere with Raiten Jutsu and magnetic chakra, and some smaller bonuses that you will see. Not a Kekkei Genkai. It is a mutation of Naruto's chakra. Kyuubi becomes buddies with Naruto. Hinata gets kidnapped when she was 5 years old and is 4 years older than Hanabi. Other than that, he will follow the main path of the story. There will be surprises. Kakashi will be one. And spoiler, disclaimer. I do not own Naruto or Naruto related stuff and characters. Without further ado, let's begin the story. It was a cloudless night in Konoha, the village hidden between the leaves. Everywhere you looked you could see destruction. A few hours ago the village was attacked by a monstrous entity called a Biju. This Biju happened to be the strongest one and went by the title Kyuubi no Yoko, nine-tailed fox. A stench of death rested heavily in the air around the ninja village and its inhabitants, who were busy counting the dead. The beast was defeated by the one ninja of the village called Yondaime Hokage, fourth fire shadow, Minato Namikaze, by sealing it inside a blonde newborn baby. The preliminary death count had just came and delivered to the council presided by the same Dame Hokage, Saratobi Hiruzen, third fire shadow. The council was assembled to determine the newborn's fate. Burn him. Burn the demon. He injured my husband and killed so many others. Screamed one white-haired but young woman. Counselor Haruno, for the 15th and final time, we are not gathered here to decide if to execute the boy, but to find a good solution about his placement. If you can't get this through your thick head, then stay silent, leave or be executed. This is your last warning. And with that, the aged Hokage released a lot of killer intent, almost making the woman faint. But she wanted to protest until two Anbu, one with a Ryu, dragon, shaped and one Inu, dog, shaped masks, appeared from the background shadows and moved their blades near the neck a hair's width from the skin. As you can see, my word will be respected in these proceedings. Besides, I can give you 3 good reasons to ignore your requests. One is that Minato desired for this child to be seen as a hero and jailer of the Kyuubi and not as the demon incarnate. You disrespect his sacrifice to this village and to you indirectly by trying to have this boy killed. 2 would be the fact that the civilian council has no power over military matters such as execution. And his words were interrupted when an aged but not too old man with white long hair, red paint marks on his face and a huge scroll on his back, split the doors open and stomped inside. Jiraiya, what is the meaning of this? Asked Hiruzen. I came to give you an even better reason, number 3. He then turned to the council. Because if anything happens to this boy, consider me and my spy network an enemy of the leaf. He proclaimed. The room was in an uproar. Why would one of the Sannin declare war on the village if something should happen to some random brat? Jiraiya-sama, why would you go so far to protect this boy from harm? He is nothing but a monster. A random civilian council member protested until he was silenced by a 2 kunai grazing each side of his head and a third near his jewels. I will not let you accuse this boy unjustly like that, growled Jiraiya. Unless you say that you are a seal master greater than Minato or myself. I examined the seal and it is flawless, unless you decide to insult my students, your Yondaime Hokage, and the world's greatest Fuin expert's memory and the Shinigami, a freaking god, you will all shut up and be quiet unless you have a good idea about this child's care or are spoken to. Yelled Jiraiya with loads of killer intent, knocking out 2 civilian members. The Sandaime coughed to clear his throat. Now that discussion is over, let us get back to the matter at hand. This boy needs a family to care for him. Will anyone here take the boy to be raised? Everybody turned their stare from the aged Hokage until one old man who looked more like a mummy than human with his bandages covering part of his face, one eye and having one other arm wrapped around his waist in bandages, raised his hand. No Danzo, I will not let you have the hero of our village to turn him into a mindless killer. He is destined for greatness and will not become a pawn in your schemes. Sandaime stared at the old warhawk when this one lowered his hand and clicked his tongue. He then looked at the other members of the Konoha Council and was utterly disappointed. Is this the behavior befitting of the villagers the fourth gave his life for? I am too old and must still look after this village and my wife is dead, but my heart weeps that I could not take him in. Jiraiya must maintain his spy network as this village's one and only spy master. Now tell me, what is your excuse? The old fire shadow growled at the people in front of him. Hyuga Hiashi was the first to answer. I understand Lord Hokage, as I too would love to take the boy that my closest friend Minato proclaimed a hero, but in my household he would be tortured by his peers and he himself would not understand why, not only because of the Bijuu, but also because of our eyes. I honestly apologize to both you and Minato. The head Hyuga then sat down after bowing deeply. Understandable, as with all clans who poses Kekkei Genkai or secret jutsu. Said Hiruzen, turning towards the civilian part. Do I even need to ask? The councillors still looked away and were silent. Well. Sarutobi screamed. They all shook their heads. The Hokage let out a sigh. Then I have no choice. The boy shall be placed under the supervision of Danzo was flashing his eye when Hiruzen finished the orphanage. The warhawk jumped on his feet to say, Hokage-sama, you can't be serious. He must be properly trained to control the beast within him. The boy shall be trained. Danzo, the mummy's eye widened, if he chooses to join the academy at the right age. I will not argue this further with you. Stand down or I will charge you with treason and insubordination. The old man was on a roll with Danzo, who sat down at the sound of that warning. I declare this meeting and its discussions highest S-class secret. You will not be allowed to talk about it under penalty of death. Also, this category of secret is that no one will ever be allowed to speak about the contents of the boy's seal except myself and the boy himself. This meeting is adjourned. Declared the Hokage. Inu. Yes, sir. The Ambu with a dog mask appeared in front of him. Take him to the orphanage and sign him under the name of Naruto Uzumaki. Hi. The Anbu took the boy and disappeared. Almost 4.5 years later, a small blonde child was running away from an angry mob, dashing under fences and jumping wherever he could. However, he was still a toddler running from a mob led by shinobi. The child had gotten away from the civilians, but one of the said shinobi, a Chunin, shunshined in front of the boy, kunai at the ready. The boy pleaded with his attacker to leave him alone. Please don't hurt me. I didn't do anything. Don't try to trick me, demon. You will pay for the lives you have taken. The man fired a kunai just when 2 swords slashed his neck and abdomen horizontally. But it was too late, as the kunai that the Chunin fired sailed through the air and impaled itself into Naruto's chest, missing his heart by 1/1000th of an inch and causing heavy damage to his lungs and arteries. Shit. Exclaimed the dog-masked Anbu. Ryu, we got to take him to the hospital. These wounds are bad. He ordered. Hi. The dragon accepted it and they both vanished, taking to the roof. On his way there, Naruto drifted to his subconscious. He woke up in a sewer, completely healed and wondering where he was. He then heard a low growl coming from a corridor he was in. Deciding to follow his instincts, he let himself find the voice by following the red and blue pipes that connected into what seemed like white boxes before splitting again into more red and blue pipes. He followed the biggest ones until he reached a massive chamber with golden iron bars that had a strange character written in their middle. Oh, how Naruto wished he could read. Come closer. The darkness behind the bars ordered the boy in a low and soft growling type of voice. He did so until he was a few feet from the bars. Then out of the darkness 2 red eyes appeared that looked like they will burn into your soul. Who are you? Asked Naruto, as if he was mesmerized by the strong eyes. To you or me, those eyes would have spelled evil right away, but the boy was no stranger to hiding your feelings even at such a tender age. He saw something else in them, sadness and regret. All of a sudden a figure stepped out into the light that looked like a gigantic fox. Take a guess, it answered and flashed his tails in the air, 9 in number. The boy's eyes widened and he lost a shade of color in his face. Kyuubi no Yoko. That's right, Kit. The fox smirked. Where are we? And why are you here? The Yondaime Hokage killed you. The boy calmed down and asked. We are inside you, Kit, in a place called your mindscape. It is a place in your mind where we can meet and talk. As for your second question, think about it, I am an eternal Bijuu with more chakra than your village's citizens combined, shinobi included even Hokage. How could one ninja kill me? The fox answered Naruto with boredom written on his face. Naruto was shocked by the truth of his situation. He didn't kill you. He put you inside me. The correct term is sealed, and yes, he sealed me inside you, well, half of me anyway. He took away my inner spiritual chakra to keep my will from influencing you. The Kyuubi was a little angry at the Hokage's transgression, but also carried respect into his eyes at the recollection of the memory. Not that it would do much good. I know how his people treat you, kid. Release me and let's have our revenge. Snickered Kyuubi. No. I don't want revenge, I only wanted to know why they treat me with fear and hatred. I don't want to destroy the village. How could I be Hokage without Konoha? Smiled the blonde, but his expression changed immediately to an emotionless one. Why? Naruto asked, looking at the huge fox but not at his face. The beast raised an eyebrow. Why did you attack Konoha years ago? What did the village do to you? The boy completed his question, staring directly into his prisoner's sight. Well, I was bored and wanted to have some fun. The fox grinned at Naruto. There was a moment of silence from the kid as he stared at the shallow water at his feet with his bangs shadowing the top part of his face. Liar. Naruto whispered. What? The Bijuu asked. Naruto jerked his face up with pain in his sky blue eyes. I said you are a liar. Yelled the boy. Don't lie to me. I can see the regret in your eyes when you think about that day. And I saw the pain when you lied. The blonde started sobbing with half-closed eyes, and I can also see that you are not evil at all, just. The fox dropped his smile and launched a claw at the child through the bars that stopped near his face. Why did you stop your claw? You had enough space, and if I die in here you will have my body and be free. Naruto stopped sobbing and was looking with compassion at the Kyuubi. This shocked the fox bad as he started stuttering. Don't see. You are not evil, you are just in pain. Why? The boy was concerned for his prisoner. Now the silence came from the fox. Why do you care, brat? Asked the fox, trying to hide his own insecurity. Because I know how bad it hurts when nobody cares if you are hurting. Nobody deserves that kind of treatment, Bijuu or human, nobody does. Naruto answered sincerely. The Bijuu was thinking something deep as the top part of his face was shadowed and his eyes were closed. You remind me of somebody I knew a long time ago, kid. He was also a kind busybody who could read the pain in one's soul. If you don't mind me asking who? The kid tilted his head slightly with a cute and curious look. The original shinobi and my father. The sage of six paths. The Bijuu answered as a tear fell down his cheeks. He was also a person who cared for the sufferings of others selflessly. He created jutsus to help the suffering and the weak, and as a result of his battle with my mother, he created me and my 8 other brothers. Naruto listened to the fox in wonder. My mother was a titanic demon called the Kyuubi, 10 tails. It rampaged across the countryside, leaving destruction in its wake and causing pain and suffering to all that it came across. The old man could not stand this and battled the monster until it appeared as if it was winning. But the flash of genius, the man created a seal and became the first Jinchuriki, human sacrifice, or a human with a Bijuu sealed inside of him, but it was powerful, and so near his death, he used an incredible technique and split its chakra into 9 others, one of which created me. The blonde was siding lotus style on the wet floor of the sewer prison and was absorbing the knowledge of this story. Before he passed on, he told us that we were born out of the Kyuubi soul, but we could follow the right path. Kyuubi felt sorrow drown him. I'm sorry, old man. I let you down. He cried, looking to the ceiling. No. You did not. Yelled Naruto. Wake up. Who told you that? Who made you think like that? Naruto screamed as loud as his lungs could let him. People have used us as tools of war for a long time, kid. You weren't my first host. I just let their anger and greed leach into me and lost my way into darkness. I failed. The fox was looking depressed. So? When you hit the bottom there is nothing to do but climb up. Snap out of it, damn it. The past is history. You have a whole future to make amends and change. If you admit defeat so easily, I will personally kick your ass back onto the right path. You have my word. And I never go back on my word, for that is my ninja way. The boy yelled at the fox with diamond-hard resolve. Kyuubi looked at him in wonder and shock. Flashback: an elderly man stood in front of a young Kyuubi and his other tailed brothers. He was the sage of 6 paths, founder of the ninja world. The kind man was giving them his final words, and between them was the line, and unlike when you were within me, you will be lead down the right path. Flashback end. Kurama. He whispered. What? The blonde asked. My name is Kurama. And with that he gently stretched a claw through the bars. Hee. It's nice to meet you, Kurama Nai-san. I am Naruto Uzumaki, the future greatest Hokage. The kid grinned and touched the claw. Both he and Kurama smiled. Naruto woke up in the hospital ward with his chest bandaged and a little painful, but not too bad. He remembered his talk with Kurama Nai and how he told him that he will protect him the best he could and if he ever wanted help, he would gladly give it. He also showed Naruto how to access his chakra. That's when they both got a surprise. Flashback. Okay kid, close your eyes and look deep inside of you. You should feel it as pure power coursing through you. Found it? Answered the blonde. Grab it and don't let it slip. Pull it up as you return from inside your mind. Alright, here I go. And after 2 seconds Naruto opened his eyes and found himself swirling with bluish chakra. Great job kid. Wah. The fox was surprised when the child's blue chakra started shining white as all the squares on the walls of the mindscape started glowing in the same way. What? What's going on? Naruto got a little nervous at his Nai-sen's reaction. Well I'll be. Looks like you got Ranpu, light chakra capabilities kid. Congrats. I haven't seen that in nearly 400 years. Strange though, it usually appears in people exposed to poisons or diseases as it has strong purification abilities, but my chakra should have kept you safe from th. Of course, my chakra. Kurama was acting strange while explaining the strange light to Naruto. What's wrong? Is it bad? The kid was getting worried. No kid. It's just that the Ranpu chakra in your body manifested as a result of this seal leaking my chakra into your system. If taken without my approval, it is highly corrosive and dangerous for any human, but because it was a small amount over time, your body adapted to turning your yin chakra into Ranpu element as a safeguard against my yang chakra that got transferred to you without my help. Cool. So what can it do? The child was getting excited. Like I said, it has powerful purification abilities in the form of energetic radiation. You can heal any disease and neutralize any poison in your own body as well as other people. Besides that it gives you control of any form of light or radiation. Plus it can energize your whole body or specific body parts to work better. I think I even remember a few jutsu using light element and you don't have to do training to use them since your body can produce it naturally instead of you willing your chakra to change into it like normal elemental jutsu. Try directing some chakra to your eyes and after that send some to your brain. Kurama explained. Naruto struggled with it at first but then got the part with the eyes. When he opened them he was shocked as he could see his Nai-sense chakra pathways as clear as day and also his outline seemed filled with spots and covering the whole spectrum from red to blue. He could see all details in a way that would make a Hyuga green with envy as well as a whole lot of things and energies that he didn't see or notice before. That Naruto is called the Shinsagen no Jutsu, Eyes of Truth technique. It lets you see in the dark, see chakra and chakra pathways. Also thermal vision and judging by your expression that is what you are seeing now in me. You see hotter spots from orange, red or white for the hottest and blue, violet or black for colder. Also you can see X-rays and gamma rays and that lets you see through walls. You can also see in a perfect sphere around yourself and amplify natural light to zoom to any distance proportional to your chakra quantity and control. It also makes you very resistant to Jinjutsu or any kind of illusions. It is believed that this was what caused the birth of the Byakugan, though nobody knows for sure. Naruto got that part down and got to sending Ranpu chakra to his brain. Everything slowed down, even him. This worried him a little and caused him to release the technique. I see that you tried the Saujin Saishin no Jutsu, mind purification technique. It accelerates your thoughts as well as clearing your mind of unnecessary thoughts. It gives you the same mental steadiness as a master monk's as well as a good amount of extra thinking time. Also you see everything slowed down, so you will have a detailed view of every action giving you time to plan your next move or analyze a fast situation or jutsu. Just like the previous jutsu, it's limited only by the quantity of Ranpu chakra you. The kid was excited that he could do something so awesome and was wondering if Kurama knew anything more. Unfortunately the fox couldn't remember anything more except that he could purify another person by placing his hands directly on the skin of that person and pumping pure Ranpu chakra into that person. Flashback end. 2 months later, on the 10th of October was the festival celebrating the Yondaime Hokage's defeat of the Kyuubi and coincidentally it was also Naruto's birthday. And what a birthday present he got. He was kicked out of the orphanage, the caretakers saying he was old enough to live on his own. And by live, she really meant and hoped for the next 4 months and 3 weeks, he managed to survive during which, when he fainted from hunger, he was found by AM and her father Tucci and given his first ever bowl of ramen. Besides saving him from death, he fell in love with the stuff. They also notified the Hokage who turned the caretakers at the orphanage into weekly practice dummies for Ibiki, also known as the sadist, head of the torture and interrogation division in Anko, his second in command. Sarutobi also gave Naruto an apartment in the slums as this was the only place that accepted him. Later that day he went to the woods to train his Shinsagen and Saujin Saishin. He was making good with this since Kurama stopped sending his will with the Bijuu chakra that leaks into the boy due to the seal. This cured his chakra of instabilities since the blue one stopped fighting the red one, giving him a boost in stamina as well. The blonde then noticed a small girl 150 feet away from him, using his Ranpu-empowered eyes, about to be attacked by a bear. He took off in her direction to help her, but when he got close enough to hear her he saw a beautiful woman rushing to her side. She was dressed in a light sky blue kimono with white rose patterns on it. She had silky dark blue hair that reached to her waist, with 2 bangs on each side of her face. And what he noticed the most was the fact that she had the same milky white eyes that the little girl had. But her eyes had pupils compared to the girl, and some veins were bulging out around them. She ran towards the bear at high speed, and Naruto activated his 2 Ranpu jutsu on instinct and watched how she got into a stance with her feet spread apart, left in front of right. Her left arm was stretched a few inches above the left foot with the palm facing the sky. Her right arm followed the same line that her left created and was higher above her right leg since her torso was bent towards the front. The boy noticed that in each of her hands, the index and middle fingers were grouped together and were stretched more than the others. He also noticed how chakra formed a sort of sharp tip or needle on the tips of the said fingers. The woman then leapt at the bear yelling Haki Rakujkin SHM, 8 trigrams. 64 palms. Naruto's eyes widened as she saw her hitting the bear's Tenketsu, chakra points. He knew about them because Kurama told him all about the chakra system during one of his visits to his mindscape. 2 points. She said and struck 2 Tenketsu. 4 points. And struck another 2. 8 points. Another 4. 16 points. Closing 8 more. 32 points. She hit 16 more. 64 points. She finishes with the 32 last hits. Naruto was mesmerized by the movements as they flowed with grace and power, as well as speed and precision. If he didn't have his jutsus on he would have seen only a blur, but with them active the action was engraved into his memory. The woman then relaxed and her eyes lost their pupils, deflating the blood vessels near them. She then turned to her daughter. Naruto saw this and took it as a sign to scram. A week later he found himself practicing in the same woods again. He didn't even notice it was late. In the village there was another festival to celebrate the signing of the peace agreement between Konoha and Kumagakure, village hidden in the clouds. There was a huge procession earlier as the head Kumonin entered in front of the cloud delegates. For Naruto this meant more noise, more smells of cooked food late into the night, and especially more drunkard avengers against the demon. He was resting a little with his Shinsugen active when he noticed an unknown presence sneaking into the Hyuga compound. He hid inside some bushes. Moments later that same shinobi came out with a bag that contained the girl he saw a week ago. Kidnap. He thought. He jumped out of the bushes, Shinsugen lit. Let her go. He commanded. The shinobi was a little surprised, but then he noticed that he sensed no other presence nearby. Get out of my way, brat. He returned. Naruto growled a little and then launched forward. I said let her go. The boy spoke, jumping to punch at the guy in the face. The man simply evaded and sent a strong kick to Naruto's abdomen that caused the boy to spit blood and fly 15 feet away. Use my power. Kurama urged the boy. The blonde then felt a huge amount of power surge through him and his body flashed with a thin aura of orange light. He then kicked his feet and blasted at the kidnapper with incredible speed and hit a pressure point that paralyzed the man, making him fall limp on the ground. He then checked on the girl and when he noticed she was unharmed, he let go of his Nai sense chakra. Naruto then coughed blood and lost consciousness, falling face first into the ground. Thus then Hiashi ran out the house and knelt near the 2 children and 2 Anbu appeared near. Hiashi-sama. Are you alright? We felt an unknown chakra spike somewhere around here. The cat-shaped masked Anbu asked the Hyuga head with a woman's voice. The man answered back. I felt the same spike as well, but when I awoke I activated my Byakugan and saw this boy fighting this man. I rushed out to intercept them, but by the time I got here both had passed out. Said Hiashi, pointing at the 2 while making sure his daughter was alright. Isn't that Naruto? I know him because Hokage-sama has me guard him sometimes. The cat Anbu mentioned. The unknown is still alive. I don't know if that boy was lucky or aimed for it, but he hit a pressure point near the right shoulder and paralyzed him. He will come to in about 2 hours. And he reached for his mask. He pulled it off. It was the Kumo head nin. What was Naruto doing fighting him here? Cat asked. Wait, Nico, cat. I can smell knockout drugs. Said the second Anbu, who had a wolf mask. What? Cat was surprised. They then checked the pockets of the Kumo nin and found a small bottle filled with liquid as well as a handkerchief that gave off the smell. All 3 of them looked at the sleeping little girl and said in unison. Kidnapping. Then Cat said, what's wrong with the boy? Hiashi activated his Byakugan and looked at the kid and then answered. He appears to be exhausted, has some internal injuries to his right lung and a broken rib that are already healing. It doesn't seem serious. I will bring this boy inside my compound to be looked after until he heals. You should take that scum to the T&IHQ. He then went inside the house. Hi. They both answered in unison and picking up the unconscious shinobi and disappeared. The next day Naruto awoke inside an expensive futon and an unfamiliar house. He jumped out of bed and noticed a sharp pain in his side. He was also found out that he was dressed in an expensive-looking sleeping robe made of silk. Then the memory of last night's fight came to him and figured out that his pain was caused by a kind of injury. "Don't worry, kid. I will have you patched up by noon," the fox reassured him. "Nai-san, do you happen to know what happened to me after?" "Sorry, Naruto, but when you black out it cuts my connection to the outside world as well." "I see." Then there was a knock at the door. "Naruto-sama, are you awake yet?" A soft woman's voice asked behind the screen of the door. "Yes. Could you please tell me where are we?" "We are in the Hyuga compound main branch house. If you can, will you get changed and follow me? Hiashi-sama wants to see you for breakfast." "Sure." The blonde looked around but couldn't find his clothes. "Sorry, but could you please tell me where can I find my clothes?" "Your clothes have been sent to be washed. As soon as they dry they will be delivered to this room. Until then feel free to use the clothes on the table," she answered. "Thank you." Naruto got dressed in the white silk kimono with a high-quality black sash that was on the table and walked out the door. He then saw the woman standing in a kneeling position, Caesar if I'm not mistaken. She was fair, but not what you would call a stunning beauty, but she radiated a calming sensation. She had the same milky white Byakugan as the rest of the Hyuga and was dressed in a simple yet expensive-looking kimono with a dark blue sash and had a long piece of white silk covering her forehead tied in a cute bow tie to the right of her head, highlighting her dark blue hair. "Follow me please," she said after getting up. Would you mind me asking your name, miss?" Naruto said a little shaky, still nervous for being in the compound. "Yukihime Hyuga, but you may call me Yuki." She smiled. "Nice to meet you, Yuki-san." He bowed his head slightly. She did the same. Moments later they arrived at a large door and Yuki said. "Hiashi-sama, Naruto-sama has arrived. Send him in." Hiashi answered. She opened the door and Naruto entered. The door closed behind him and the boy noticed that he was in a big dining room with Hiashi in the center of what looked like a group of old Hyugas. Except that to the man's right stood the same woman that defeated the bear and to his left stood what looked like a clone of Hiashi, only that he was wearing a Konohanin's Hit I-8 headband. Naruto stood standing 2 steps away from the door. Kurama had taught him proper etiquette when dealing with nobles. One of the rules was to never do something if they don't invite you first. "Please, sit down and eat." The head Hyuga invited Naruto. "Thank you, sir." Naruto bowed and took a place at the table, but before he ate he had to ask something. I thank you once again for inviting me, Hiashi-sama, but I must ask, why are you doing this for me?" He asked, hoping he wasn't rude. "Is it that odd for a father to offer a meal to his daughter's rescuer? You are only 5 years old and yet you have received internal injuries fighting for my girl's safety. I would like to thank you and offer you a room to stay here until you recover." Naruto blushed and looked in his lap until he hears a kind and loving voice. "And I would like to thank you as well. You risk your life for a complete stranger and that is a very commendable action," said the beautiful woman next to Hiashi. "It was nothing." Forgive me, but who are you?" "Oh my, forgive me, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Hinata-chan's mother. My name is Hyuga." Just then she was interrupted by an old man at the end of the table. "Never. I will not allow that demon spawn to desecrate our clan's name even if I die fighting." And with that he charged at Naruto with his left hand forward and his right cocked back. Naruto activated his Shinsagen, Saujin Saishin, and drew on the Bijuu's chakra, barely dodging that man's Gyuukin strike. "Shit, he really is trying to kill me. There is only one thing I can do now and I do hope it works." The blonde jumped back and flew through an open door into the Hyuga's backyard. He then proceeded to stand still with his eyes closed. The old man came charging at him, ignoring Hiashi's orders to stand down. He then fired a palm full of chakra at Naruto. Naruto spun on his heel and avoided that strike, surprising everyone present. He was 3 feet away from the old man when he opened his eyes and they were shining with an intense white glow. He then bent his torso towards the elder Hyuga and spread his legs, left forward with his arm above it, palm to the sky. The right side was a mirror image of his left with the mirror being the boy's spine. The elder seemed to be frozen in place from the sight. A green yin-yang circle appeared with both of them in the middle of it, at the center of other concentric green circles. The blonde then said in a voice that lacked emotion. "You are within my reach, Haki Hyaku Naju Hachi Sho. 8 trigrams 128 palms." He then gathered Kurama's chakra to energize his body and blasted the senile old Hyuga's non-vital Tenketsu. 2 strikes, 4 strikes, 8 strikes, 16 strikes, 32 strikes, 64 strikes. By now the old man was backed against a wooden training post that was being cracked by the intense chakra that went through the old man. 128 strikes. And with the last hit, the massive wooden post was destroyed and the elder sent flying to a wall, cracking it as he hit. He then fell limp and panting. After confirming his opponent's defeat, Naruto relaxed, allowing the Bijuu's chakra to recede. This made him wobble and pant as the strain of this energy on the boy's young body was a little too much for it to handle. Then he heard a thud. The blonde turned around and saw a lot of stupefied Hyuga besides Hiashi and his clone kneeling over his collapsed wife, both of them calling for a doctor. Naruto gathered what remained of his stamina and jumped to their side. "What happened to her?" the boy said as he dragged himself to Hiashi's side. The man was holding his wife's head as she was unconscious, breathing hard and sweating like she had a bad nightmare. "My wife has a sickness that causes her internal organs to poison her body, and it only gets worse whenever she is stressed or excited. The birth of our second daughter Hanabi made it worse to the point that she can die from just about anything that causes her surprise or upsets her. I try to protect her the best that I could, but this event might just be." The apparently emotionless man felt a tear dripping down tear as he closed his eyes and bit his lip. Naruto was torn up inside by this news. Even though he was defending himself, he was to blame for this as well. And she was one of the few people that looked at him kindly and even appreciated him, and she was now dying, slowly poisoned by her body. Wait. Poison. That's it. The blonde remembered something. Kurama. He started mentally shouting. "What is it, Kit?" The fox responded. "Please. Give me all the power you can," answered the boy. "What's wrong?" "Ask me later, now please." "Okay." Naruto felt power rising up from within him. He started glowing, being covered by an orange aura that looked a lot like flames, think chakra cloak, but make it more transparent and less obvious, making some of the Hyuga's prison take a step back. In one swift motion he exposed the collapsed woman's abdomen and placed his right hand on it and his left on her forehead. The Ashi almost backhanded him. How dare he disgrace his wife? Has this boy no shame? But the man then noticed the boy's hands glowing intensely white that made it difficult to look at them. The hands glowed even brighter and the light extended from his hand slowly covering the woman's body. Hiashi then noticed that the color in his wife's cheeks was returning and her breathing was returning to normal. She was calming down. Intrigued by this change, the man activated his Byakugan and watched as the white chakra flowed through his loved one's body, removing any harmful substance from her bloodstream, energizing her as it passed through her organs. When this was finished, the woman lay peacefully asleep and Naruto passed out from exhaustion. "Nai-sama, honorable brother, what happened?" Hiashi's clone asked. "Is Ashi, this boy that chakra cleaned my wife's body and strengthened her. I don't know how, but he purified her blood and saved her life. He passed out from the strain. Take him inside to rest and have someone watch over him," ordered the head Hyuga as he picked up his sleeping wife bridal style and took her inside the house. "Hi." His Ashi answered and moved to the boy, lifting him up in a similar manner. "I don't know how you did it, kid, but you earned Hiashi's gratitude twice now," he whispered to the blonde. The blonde responded, "Yuka-san." The man realized what the boy was saying. "Send for Yukahim and have her watch over this boy." His Ashi ordered and the present Hyuga complied. 2 days later, Naruto was sleeping when he felt something cold and wet moving across his face. He opened his eyes and saw Yuki knelt down next to his head, wiping his forehead. "Hello, Yuki-san. What time is it?" he asked wearily. "Good morning, Naruto-sama. It is 9 o'clock in the morning. You slept the whole day after you saved Hiashi-sama's wife and the day after. I watched over you this whole time," she said with a smile. "Thank you and I'm sorry for being a bother," said a slightly embarrassed Naruto. "It was no trouble, Naruto-sama," she answered to the boy, but her eyes clearly showed pain. "Liar. Your eyes are like mine, they show pain." "Why?" The boy was concerned and saddened. The woman bit her lip and lashed her head at the boy. "Why do you care?" "Nobody does," she answered. The boy stood silent. "What do you know about pain? You are a child that does nothing but dream, play and then head home where your parents feed you and read you a bedtime story. I'll tell you, you know nothing of true pain." The boy just bit his lip and closed his eyes, turning his face away. "I am a branch family member. We are servants to the main house." She then undid the silk cloth on her head and revealed a mark that looked like a swastika with hooks at the end and 2 horizontal lines on each side that had hooks on the ends facing the main part. "This is a seal that the main house members put on the branch families when we are young to keep our eyes from being used by non-clan members. It destroys our Byakugan when we die, but it is also used by the main branch when we get out of line. When they use this, it fries our minds with pain." Naruto looked at her with surprise and sadness. "You just saved my cousin's wife, thank you. She was always kind to us, but don't expect me to thank you for making the main house happy," she snapped. A short pause later. "For all I care about that, you can go to hell. You, Yukahim." A man's shout came from behind them. It was a very angry Hiashi Hyuga with his Byakugan activated. "I came here hearing shouts from this room and find you insulting my daughters and my wife's savior. I think you forgot your place." He growled at her. She cowered away from him looking terrified. "Please forgive me, Hiashi-sama. I didn't." Before she could finish, the man raised a half seal and she fell to pieces in pain, screaming like she was on fire. "Stop!" yelled Naruto as he tackled Hiashi to the ground, causing him to release his jutsu. Yukihime fell on her hands and knees panting. "Yuki-san." The boy ran to her and grabbed her shoulders. He then placed a hand on her forehead and it started glowing white. Yukihime felt the lingering pain disappear from her head and then looked at Naruto. "Why? After the horrible things I told you, why are you helping me?" "Dai-sen says that you don't need a reason to help somebody in pain and I agree," he said with a smile. "Besides, I think I came to see you like a Nissan though I'm not sure. I never had a family or even a home. I've lived on the streets for a while now, hiding from bad people who want to hurt me, until Jai-sen got me a place to stay all to myself. Besides I know what's like to carry a mark that you didn't deserve." Naruto said this with a smile and lifted his shirt showing a lot of scars and the Kyuubi seal. Yukihime gasped at the sight. Those scars showed a wide range of injuries, but a certain one caught her attention. It was pretty fresh and was the size of an adult's palm on the boy's right side. Naruto noticed this. "That one I got about 3 weeks ago when, one night a drunken shinobi hit me on the back of my head. When I woke up I was tied to a post and had alcohol poured over me." The man was laughing hard and then snapped his fingers. Sparks came from them and lit the alcohol in me with it. He passed out after one more swig of his booze. "I was lucky that he didn't use wire and so the ropes burned and I got away only with that injury. It was one of the worst times. I'm usually only looked at with eyes of hatred or ignored. When that's not enough I get chased, starved, kicked, stabbed or beaten half to death, worse on my birthday, but this guy got creative," he said smiling. It was only a half-truth. What he didn't tell her was that he could have gotten worse if Kurama didn't surround him with a chakra cloak, but it was too slow and he still got burned. Yukihime was shocked. She had a look of dread on her face that was worse than the one when Hiashi came barging into the room. This child suffered so much and he still had the will to live. He was barely close to 5 years of age and he had endured more than most veteran shinobi. Hiashi was boiling mad. His best friend's legacy, his wife's savior and his daughter's rescuer had to suffer so much and he didn't know. Sarutobi is going to get an earful. Yuki then realized the truly horrible words she said to him and jumped embracing him. "I'm sorry Naruto-sama. I said all those cruel things to you. I didn't know. I'm truly sorry," she cried. "It's okay. You didn't know. Oh and stop calling me Sama, it makes me feel weird." He smiled rubbing her back. "Okay, Naruto-kun." The boy then got up and walked towards Hiashi who was now standing. The man looked furious. Naruto then stopped 3 feet away from the man and bowed deeply. "Hiashi-sama. I am deeply sorry for my actions earlier. I accept any punishment for them in exchange for Yuki-san being forgiven," he said with full honesty. "No Naruto-kun. Stop. You don't have to do that for me." Hiashi then dropped down to the boy's height and hugged the boy. "Of course. Don't worry about that. There will be no consequences." Just then the door opened and the man's wife entered and saw the scene. She was surprised but quickly smiled. "Hiashi-san, Hokage-sama is here and wants to talk to you about that Kumo shinobi that tried to take Hinata." Hiashi's face took on a light frown. "Thank you dear. I will go talk to him. Besides I have a few extra things to talk with him. Naruto-kun, would you like to take a bath in the meantime?" "Oh, I will take him. And Yukihime, would you like to join us?" She smiled even more. "My pleasure," answered Yuki. Naruto then said. I can do it myself miss." "Oh that's right, I never got to introduce myself. My name is Hyuga Haruko and I cannot let a child bathe by himself. Our baths are pretty big and you could drown if you don't know where the deep parts are," she said to the boy in a kind matter-of-factly way. "Pretty," whispered the blonde. "Sorry, what?" she asked. "I said that you have a pretty name." He blushed. "Why thank you Naruto-kun, now let's go." She giggled. He nodded and followed both women to the bath. Hiashi then went to see the Hokage. When he got there his brother Hisashi was already engaged in short talk with the man. "I apologize for keeping you waiting, Hokage-sama," said the Hyuga head. "No problem Hiashi. I came here to tell you the situation with the Kumonin Naruto caught." The aged Hokage answered. Ibiki said that he was a pretty hard nut to crack but he eventually confessed to the kidnapping. He also said that the treaty was a cover-up to get a chance to take Hinata back to Kumo with him and have her breed a lot of Byakugan shinobi. Hearing this Hiashi shattered the glass of water in his hand but his face remained emotionless. The Hokage continued. "After we sent message to Kumo asking them what is the meaning of this, they responded accusing us of lying about the attempted kidnapping and also you of attacking and injuring their head nin. They first asked for your head and at the sound of this Hisashi who was sitting at their side cringed and whispered bastards." Both Hiashi and the Hokage looked at him but then the village leader continued but backed down as soon as they received a filmed confession from their ninja as well as the news that it was not you but a 5-year-old boy was the one that beat one of their best shinobi. I guess they were quite embarrassed. All men in the room smirked. Sarutobi then asked, "Speaking of which, where is Naruto and what is he doing?" Making Hiashi cringe and answer. "Hokage-sama, you don't need to worry about the boy. He is here and is now taking a bath with my wife and his attendant. We are looking after him." The Hokage smiled, "which is not what I can say about your part." The Sandaime dropped the smile. "What do you mean, Hiashi?" The Fire Shadow asked. "I mean, Hokage-sama, exactly what you heard. I just found out that he is tortured and that there are attempts at his life on a daily basis from the village. Weren't you supposed to watch over him, Hokage-sama?" "But I do, Hiashi." "Then tell me, Hokage-sama, why was the boy nearly burnt alive 2 weeks ago?" Hiruzen's face went white. "What?" The Kage screamed. He told his attendant Yukihime that, 2 weeks ago, he was tied to a post by an inebriated shinobi, drenched in alcohol, and set on fire. The nin passed out from the booze, and Naruto was left to burn. He was lucky that the ropes burned before he could die. And then I saw the unmistakable palm-sized burn scar on his body, next to others that showed cuts, burns, whippings, stabbings, brandings and many others. And these are the visible ones. If he didn't possess what he did, he would have died a long time ago. Now tell me, Hokage-sama, how could you let this happen?" Hiashi flared. Hisashi and Sarutobi felt like throwing up. How could that happen to a child? "Hiashi, I knew about the attempts and had Anbu guarding him 24/7, but I didn't know that things were this bad. I love the boy like my grandson," the senior shinobi said. "I have no doubt that you care for the boy, Hokage-sama, but it appears that not all Anbu are loyal to you." The head Hyuga then let out a sigh. "I have decided to take the boy in, to train and look after him." My wife also fully agreed with this. The Hokage was surprised. "But Hiashi, won't he be looked down upon here? Besides, how will you train him? He doesn't have the Byakugan." "I don't think it will be a problem. The boy defeated a Hyuga counselor with a perfect Haki Hyaku no Juhachi show. Avoiding any vital points." Sarutobi nearly passed out. "What? How?" "I don't know. But I can train him if he can see the Tenketsu. That is if I have your approval, Hokage-sama." Hiruzen got into a thinking pose for a couple of seconds and answered, "I need to speak to Naruto first." Just then the doors opened and Haruko entered. "Oh my, I'm sorry for interrupting your conversation. I thought you would be finished by now," she said with a gentle voice. "No problem, I was going to call for Naruto anyway." "How was the bath?" Hiashi spoke. His wife giggled softly. "He was very well behaved. I find it surprising considering that he is a boy. They usually run away from anything to do with baths." She looked at the men and they all blushed slightly in embarrassment. "The only thing that disturbed me was when he asked if the water is hot all the time." The men raised an eyebrow. I asked him about the source of his question and he told me that at his apartment the only time he gets hot water was between 6 o'clock and 6:05 am and that he was always chased away from the onsen, public baths. Sarutobi's face lost a lot of wrinkles, frowning. "But that wasn't the true shocker. I almost fainted when I saw his body," she said, looking to the floor. "His whole skin was a canvas painted with scars. I then activated my Byakugan and noticed that all his organs had signs of past trauma and nearly every bone was broken and healed multiple times. He is also slightly malnourished as a quarter of his ribs are visible through the skin. At his age they should not be like that, but he has absolutely no baby fat." I asked him if he was eating well and he told me that most of the time he eats only ramen since most stores chase him away or they overcharge him for expired food. The Hokage was now clenching his fist so hard that his fingernails drew blood. "Ibiki will be busy for a while." That shocked me, and so my illness began to accentuate while holding him in the water, with his back facing her. I nearly passed out, but he noticed this and used his power to help me. He started panting a little and then his stomach growled. I remembered that he had not eaten in 2 days, but he was still doing his best to help me, even though he barely had enough energy to walk. I sent Yuki to bring him something to eat. When she came back with some sandwiches he refused to eat until I would eat as well, saying that, and I quote, "Sick people should eat to get better, Okami. How can this boy be so kind after all that has happened to him?" I was curious and asked him and he told me that he has 4 people he cares most about and he keeps going for them. I asked him who and he told me that they were me, Yuki, his Jiji, grandfather, old man. She glanced at the Hokage who blushed and smiled and another person who was a secret. He also told me that it was that person who taught him about manners, chakra and chakra system. It was also that person who always helped him and taught him the true meaning of being Hokage. He told me it is his dream to be, and I quote, "the Hokage greater than all others before him, even Jiji and Yondaime." After we finished bathing I told Yuki to prepare Naruto-kun a proper meal. Everybody in the room smiled and nodded, with Sarutobi once again blushing. "Oh dear. I'm sorry for rambling on like this, but I thought that you should know this. I will take my leave now." She bowed. "Wait, Haruko. I want to see Naruto when he has finished his meal and I want you to be here if you think you are able to stay," asked Hiashi. "Of course. Naruto-kun's power gave me a lot of energy." She giggled. Just then there was a knock on the door. "Haruko-sama. Come in, Yuki." The woman answered. Yuki came in and bowed. I have come to tell you that Naruto-kun finished his meal per your instruction. Oh dear, that was quick. Did those sandwiches spoil his appetite? Haruko was concerned. No, that was not the case. He finished everything on the table with seconds. Yuki and Haruko sweat dropped in anime style. But there was enough food on the table for 7 people. He asked for seconds and finished them in 10 minutes. And now the men's sweat dropped. Hi. I guess the speed was in subconscious fear that the food will be taken from him. As for the quantity, I looked at him with my Byakugan and saw that it was absorbed by his system at an astonishing rate, slowing down as he finished the meal. What I can tell from this is that he has a variable metabolism that he can control subconsciously, but it doesn't surprise me anymore. Both women giggled and the men nodded and smiled. Yuki, my husband and Hokage-sama wished to speak to him. Haruko told the woman. Hi, and she left. 2 minutes later she returned with Naruto, who was dressed in a white kimono with black pants. He looked in the room and saw the Hokage. He got excited and ran towards the man. Gigi. Hey there Naruto. The old Kage embraced the boy he saw as a grandson. The Ashi then coughed and said, Naruto-kun, there is something important I wish to ask you, but first would you tell Hokage-sama and me what you told Haruko and Yuki before and in the bath, with details. The boy nodded and started telling the whole story with even more details, whilst staying in Haruko's lap with their hands touching, occasionally flaring his Ranpu chakra to keep her healthy. And that was a good idea because the story was much more gruesome than they originally thought. Naruto told them that ever since he could remember he was looked at with eyes that saw him as something less than human, that the first memory he had was a punch from his orphanage caretaker, that every 2 or less weeks he is chased and half the times he gets away, but when he gets caught he is starved, humiliated, robbed, punched, kicked, mugged, slashed, stabbed, burned, crushed, used as target practice for jutsu, though rare since it alerts shinobi of chakra usage, and many other horrible actions that are too painful to remember until the Anbu come, but sometimes are late or they never appear. The women were tearing up and embracing him tight. The men were boiling with killer intent. Oh, Ibiki would be busy indeed. Naruto, why didn't you tell me about any of this? The old man was furious. I didn't think it was a big deal. Said the boy, a little frightened by his Jiji's reaction. It was a big deal, Naruto. You could have been killed each time. Yelled Sarutobi, making the boy shiver and back up into Haruko, who noticed this. Okage-sama, please calm down. You are scaring the poor boy. She said with motherly love, tightening her hands around the blonde, reassuring him that he was safe. The old man then looked at Naruto, who was still shivering a little bit. I'm sorry Naruto. It's just that I care for you and I don't want you to suffer like that, and neither did the Yondaime Hokage. The man said, rubbing his forehead. It's okay, I know. I just thought that I did something to make them mad at me and didn't want to upset you too. Said the boy. Sarutobi felt his heart split in two. From now on don't keep things from me like that, okay? He said, smiling at Naruto. Yup. The blonde showed his foxy grin. Other than that, what can you tell me about these abilities of yours, like what they do and who taught you how to manipulate chakra? The man gently smiled at the boy. Kurama Ai-san did. Oops. He said, looking away. What's the matter Naruto? Who is Kurama? The man nervously asked. I'm not supposed to tell anybody. The kid fidgeted. Why is that? Well, every time somebody mentions about it they get shushed immediately, saying something about a law. Naruto said matter-of-factly. The temperature in the room dropped a few degrees and all the people in the room began looking like ghosts. Naruto the Hokage broke the silence. Is Kurama the Kyuubi no Yoko? The Hokage wearily asked. I told you I'm not supposed to talk about it. I don't want to break the law. The boy said, lowering his chin into his chest but keeping his eyes on the old man. The old man's sweat dropped. I know about the law Naruto, and you and I and anybody else who you tell are allowed, so come on, is it the Kyuubi? The old man hoped not, but Naruto nodded, much to his displeasure. Naruto. That demon is evil and dangerous. You should know better than to talk with it. He could hear his shouted but was interrupted by the blonde. Stop it. Don't be mean to Kurama Ai-san. He is not bad. He helps me all the time. Well, you don't even know about me being beaten. You don't know anything about him. Naruto snapped at the man, making him jump in surprise and a little shame that the boy was right about him not knowing about torture. But Naruto, if he isn't evil, why did he attack the village last time? The Hokage asked, more rhetorically than curious. About that he said he was really sorry because he couldn't stop himself. He said he was under a Jujutsu or something like that. Jinjutsu, corrected Haruko. Yes, Jinjutsu. He was under a Jinjutsu and when he woke up he was already being sealed. All he remembered was a creep in a mask with an eye that was red with a strange pattern. He called it Eternal Manjengu or Manjikyu Sharingan. Sharingan, dear Haruko corrected again with a little amusement at the mistake, but she was still a little unnerved by the boy's words. Yes, Sharingan. Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. And after that he blacked out. He told me he was sealed in somebody else before but couldn't remember who. Anyway, he was still sealed inside that person when the creep with the mask appeared before him and then poof, he was inside me. Naruto answered the man. Sarutobi Hiruzen felt like he lost a couple of his few remaining years. If this was true, it meant that not only an Uchiha would be responsible for the destruction from 5 years ago, but also that the fox was genuinely helping Naruto. Naruto, are you sure that he is not lying to you? The Hokage said in a softer tone. The boy nodded violently. He is not lying. I know how eyes of a person that lies look like. Excuse my rudeness, but I can vouch for that. He also saw through my lies. Yuki spoke, a little embarrassed. How can you tell, kid? Hisashi ached. Well, Mr. Hisashi Hyuga, the blonde was interrupted. Well, Hisashi-san, I always notice how most people look at me with anger and well, they look like mine. This made everybody flinch. So don't be mean to Nai-san.